Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Respected August gathering here, I feel privileged to stand here IGNCA, where from 2001 to 2007 I was part of Indira Gandhi Rashtriya Kala Kendra, Dakshina Pradeshika Kendra, that is SRC, Bangalore. So today I feel privileged to stand here as an invitee because a number of times we have invited and we had very good symposiums and discussions. I was part of that as a young researcher at that time to listen to the scholars who were presenting. Today I'm standing in front of August gathering. Let Bhagavati give me the strength and energy to express myself, the topic what I'm going to speak today. For the first time, I'm not here with PowerPoint presentation because of the topic what I have been given by Dr. Padma ma'am. It was 3 weeks back where she connected to me and she requested me to speak on Abhinaya Darpana of Nandikeswara, where all dancers, we are very much familiar with the textual traditions. That too, Abhinaya Darpana is breadth of our dancers, where we say that it is designed or authored by Nandikeswara, right from our childhood. Natyarambe Varivahe. It starts with Abhinaya Darpana, and Angikam Bhonam Yasya, Vachikam Sarvamangmayam, Aharyam Chandrataradi, Tam Vande Satvikam Shivam. This is the shloka, what we start with our dance steps, and we move on to learn our hand gestures and all the techniques, what is there in Abhinaya Darpana. But we never thought of thinking about the author who has written this. Here my question starts, who is Nandikeswara? What is Abhinaya Darpana? What is the time of Abhinaya Darpana? What made him to only concentrate on the gestures, what has been prescribed in Abhinaya Darpana. As dancers and also as scholars, we know that we are dependent on our textual traditions. Natya Shastra is the base. Of course, for Natya Shastra, we say Shilali and Natasutra, which was much more earlier, which made us to explore, and Bharata says he has been inspired by those textual traditions. When it comes to Bharata, after Bharata's Natya Shastra, n number of texts are there, which has influence of Natya, that is Angika, Vachika, Aharya and Satvika aspects will be there. When it comes to the Abhinaya Darpana, it is only Angika Abhinaya, not of Aharya, not much of Aharya or anything else other than Angika Abhinaya, where more than 250 to 300 varieties of gesticulation is established there and explanations are there. All the enlisted numbers will be given, it is there in my research paper. And more than 31 varieties of hand gesticulation are prescribed there. You name it, everything is there. For precious stones, for raga, and the dawn of the season, the Surya, Suryodaya, Suryasta, in between the time zone of the Surya, how to show their different apsaras, Raja, Nadi, whatever we want to explore and express, those details are there in Abhinaya Darpana. Surprisingly, no Nruttahasta, not much of that, or Karanas, or Charis, or Angaharas, Mandalas, what we see in other texts, and different dance traditions of regional styles, Desi dances as we see in Sangita Ratnakara, Nritta Ratnavali, or Nartana Nirnaya. Nothing like that. Only and only Abhinaya, that is Hasta Abhinaya. In our textual traditions, we never get the mudras. It is all about the Abhinaya Hasta. Even in Natya Shastra, he says, we are communicating through our Hasta, Abhinaya. Mudras are for energizing ourselves and for the Tantra and also the ritualistic concept, where we make those mudras to regenerate ourselves. Whereas the dance text explore on Abhinaya Hasta, And here in Abhinaya Darpana, it is about the communication through the language of vocabulary, that is Abhinaya hastas. And the main question what came to me is why we have chosen Abhinaya Darpana as our popular text in today's classical dance arena, that is post-independence time. We know that our Bharatanatyam has been identified after 1930s, and in 1945 it was declared as classical dance, and from there we have the journey of different classical dance to later date in 2000, late 2000. Even Satriya was identified, and now Chow is also going to be announced as classical dance. So what is that made them to identify or take the Abhinaya Darpana as their text, but not any other text which was prevalent? Like Nartana Nirnaya is so rich in its different styles and steps and all the varieties what it is there. Sangeeta Saramvrata, it has all the Adavu patterns. Sharangadeva gives different varieties of dances which was existed for male and female. Ritual traditions are informed there. Manasollasa gives varieties of dances. Natya Shastra, it is like encyclopedia for us where we explore on that. What made our seniors or 100 years before the scholars to think about Abhinaya Darpana to take that as a text for classical dances? Because we bifurcated between around after 6th to 7th century. We bifurcated from Natya tradition and we traveled towards Nritya tradition. We know that in Natya Shastra there is no mention of Nritya. We have only Nritta. That is, we do a lot of Pataksharas, we do dance for Pataksharas, and body movement will come there, where it may be considered as abstract. We may communicate or we may not communicate. That is the beauty of Nritta, what we have, and we say it is a beautiful choreographical patterns. When this Nritya element of our classical dances was derived, it is devoid of Vak, that is Vachika Abhinaya. Artists will not speak. They have to show everything through the gesticulation. That gesticulation was repository here in Abhinaya Darpana. You name it and everything is there. So when we look into the mirror of gestures of Ananda Kumaraswamy, very clearly he mentions, and also in Manmohan Ghosh, Abhinaya Darpana introduction, that during that time, it is for the first time, Abhinaya Darpana translation was in 1917 by Ananda Kumaraswamy. Then it was in 1934 by Manmohan Ghosh. They say a new trend is developing where we are devoid of the walk, where Vachika Abhinaya is not there in the individual dance, that Ekavikti Pradarshana, what we say. And for the dance, it is a repository where they can go with the gesticulation of the Abhinaya hastas. So because of this, Abhinaya Darpana became a very, very prominent text for the dancers. And today Bharatanatyam, just now we had a very good presentation by Dr. Mansi Madam. So Bharatanatyam depends totally on Abhinaya Darpana. Kuchipudi partially goes with Abhinaya Darpana, and the later people who have seen the Abhinaya Darpana gesticulation, in the same way the Odissi Abhinaya Chandrika and Hastalakshana Deepika of Kathakali, even they have elaborate gesticulations and gestures to communicate. So for everything we have gestures like to call or to say yes, thumbs up. Today we have, this is there in the WhatsApp, but this is a very prominent hasta what we use, and whenever you see Bharatanatyam, it is full of Abhinaya Darpana's gesticulation. So what made this Abhinaya Darpana so important? And about the author. So because of the Nritya tradition and elaborative gesticulation what it is there, we understand that Abhinaya Darpana was identified for modern classical dance. Before, was it prominent? In my understanding, in my journey, never I have come across about Abhinaya Darpana or the reference in sculptural depiction or painting or literature or anywhere else. I'm going to make a lot of questions here. Probably beginning of the seminar only here, I have my observations to put it here. As per to the scholars, when we go for the credentials of author, that is Nandikeswara. In general, we have assumed that Abhinaya Darpana is a text written by Nandikeswara, whereas the first reference where I went for Ramakrishna Kavi's Bharata Kosha, there is no mention of Abhinaya Darpana at all. And there is no name of Nandikeswara. He says as Nandi, which was Bharatarnava. He says Bharatarnava has been identified there, and also he says Nandi was the author of Bharatarnava. In the beginning of the Abhinaya Darpana's conversation, we do see Indra and Nandikeswara's conversation. Here again we have an ambiguity whether Nandikeswara, what has been, that conversation was happening between Nandi, Indra, or Ishvara and Indra. Because Indra goes to him and he says he wants to compete with Natashekara, who was a proficient in dance, and he asked to give instantaneous dance techniques to learn and to be there for the competition. So because of that, he says there is a Bharatarnava, and you can take the abridged version of that, which can be considered as Abhinaya Darpana. Within that, there is a name called as Sumati, where the abridged version was condensed, and from there Abhinaya Darpana has been identified. When this abridged version was identified, we don't know who has done that. From where this Nandikeswara's name comes is still an ambiguity, and all the scholars like Ananda Kumaraswamy, Manmohan Ghosh, and Dr. Professor Appa Rao gives a very detailed description and introduction about the origin and the different names of the Nandikeswara. Identity of Nandikeswara, we know practically nothing about the author name, but he regarded as authority on Tala, Yoga, Tantra, Kama Sutra, Purva Mimamsa, and also Lingayata Shaivism. 3 works, namely Tala Lakshana, Taladi Lakshana, Talabhinaya Lakshana, was also prescribed to him. Rajashekara in his Kavya Mimamsa mentions Nandikeswara as an authority on rasa. In Kavyamala edition of designates later portion of the work as Nandi Bharata. Manmohan Ghosh says about this. Again, in B.L. Rice, in his Mysore Kurg catalogue mentions work called Nandi Bharata on music. Madras catalogue 12 refers to as chapter on dramatic gestures as Nandi, Bharata, Kosha, Shankara, Hasta Abhinaya. Vatsayana quotes as Nandi. Apart from this, following is also attributed to Nandikeswara. Nandikeswara Taladhyaya, Bharatarnava, a condensed, again I have told about the story, how Abhinaya Darpana has been developed. Manmohan Ghosh opines that abridged version of Bharatarnava, also later in Natya Shastra, earlier text of Sangita Ratnakara suggests the safe date between 1000 to 13th century. Again, after so many Nandikeswaras are there, we cannot say among him who is the author or the editor who has done worked on Abhinaya Darpana. Then I had a lot of questions when in 1997 Professor Appa Rao came with the translation, a very detailed translation on Abhinaya Darpana. Appa Rao says, Abhinaya Darpana, the Nandikeswara translation was a solid 30 pages introductions are there, which triggered me to look into the date and identity of the Nandikeswara. Was always curious to know about his date and time. Today, here, as we look into the introduction of all these scholars and Appa Rao, I can say Appa Rao attributes to 4th or 5th century. He says we can see the references in Matanga's explanation what it is there. So he dates to 6th or 7th century. Apart from that, here he says there are different 16 popular names identified who contributed to dance. That is, the names like Shiva, that is Shambhu, Gauri, Brahma, Madhava, Nandikeswara, Dattila, Kohala, Yagnavalkya, Narada, Hanuma, Vignaraja, षण्मुखा, Brihaspati, Arjuna, Ravana and Bhanusuta. These 16 popular are identified as contributors for the dance, who were named as Bharatakartas. Among this, Nandikeswara has been identified as an authority on science of dance. Professor Apparao orates that based on available different sources, there are names like Nandi, Nandisha, Nandikesha and Nandikeswara. Further information furnishes the different time period. We can see the name of Nandikeswara. So Nandikeswara was a synonym for the authority on Natya and Sangeeta, that is Nritya and music. So with this, the date of Nandikeswara was also debatable, because when we see Abhinaya Darpana, it just with Apparao says as 6th century, 4th century to 6th century, but Manmohan Ghosh places it to 1000 to 1300. With my observation, had an opportunity to discuss this in 1997 when this book was published with Apparao sir, because I was trained for Natya Shastra under his able guidance. When I asked him 4 questions, because in Abhinaya Darpana we have Navagraha hastas, Navarasa, Dashavatara, Darpana theory and concept of Mangalya Dharana. According to art history concept, Chatur Dikpalaka, even in Purvaranga Vidhi and Natya Shastra, when we see up to 7th to 8th century, we cannot see only we can see the Chatur Dikpalakas only after the structural temple constructions and Navagraha aspects are incorporated there, and also we see the Navagraha as deity, that only the Chatur Dikpalakas were there in earlier times. Then the Dashavatara concept. We know that the first documentation what we see through for the dance is from Jayadeva's Ashtapadi, and also of course Dashavatara concept is there, but the first 5 avatars are considered and we have a philosophy and theory connected to that. And also Abhinaya Darpana, it connects to the Darpana theory, and also the details how it gives, whether for the Mangalya Dharana and for the Bandhavya Hasta, we do see the 2nd millennium social life depiction than the 1st millennium depiction what it is there. So when I questioned and I just discussed, and when I asked him, he was amused and he just laughed and he said, I have given my date, you can work on this, and if you feel, or if you can discuss with much more scholars, if you feel you can place it for between 1000 and 1300, I don't have any problem. So today is the day where I have furnished my observations on the date of Abhinaya Darpana and the author Nandikeswara. Of course, Nandikeswara name is there in n number of compositions and also textual traditions, but the Nandi, where Nandikeswara we see, of course Apparao says he might be from Andhra Pradesh, and a number of manuscripts are available around India, and sometimes even extended to Greater India, that is, as we say, as Bharatadesha or Bharatakhanda. We can see a number of manuscripts, but the authority and originality of the Abhinaya Darpana and Nandikeswara is very much in ambiguity. So with this, I would like to say my research and my question continues. If in August gathering, any one of you, or you can give my your observations and can guide me for further research related to this, I will be much obliged, and I will be thankful for informations what I get it there. So Nandikeswara is a celebrity name in our textual tradition. A number of contributions are there in his name. And Abhinaya Darpana is a very important text for dancers for today's classical dance. And we do go through that, whether we don't know of the author time or the author Nandikeswara, whether he has written it or not. But Abhinaya Darpana is our third text for our Indian classical dance. With this, I would like to conclude my presentation. Thank you very much, and Guru Pranamah. Much more details and references, cross-references will be there in my research article. If any observations are there, I'm ready to receive that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, earliest reference to Nandikeswara, in old Kannada it is called as Lanjikeshwara, appears in Mahakuta inscription. That is dated 596. It's not directly connected with dance. And Galaganatha inscription where dancer himself is the donor of the temple. And Battis Ragvi Brahmana, his name, you are aware of that. So maybe in that direction, and also Pattadakal inscription, also probably one of the reference to look at whether Abhinaya Darpana was already pre-matured or the early part of that were already available in that, whether we are trying to date Abhinaya Darpana with the 10th and 11th century or so. So this is my observation. I think you can look at it.
Thank you, sir. Yes, it's a valuable information for the further studies. But when we look into the composition of the Abhinaya Darpana and the concept of Navarasa, that is where very clearly, because the Navarasa, initially Natya Shastra has Ashtarasas, over 8th and 9th century only the Navarasa concept developed, where very clearly in Abhinaya Darpana we can see the Navarasa aspect. And also in number of the details what he gives, it matches with the confluence time of 10th century onwards, where Dasharupaka is there, Abhinavagupta's interpretations are there, and Darpana theory. Those concepts will match here for the Abhinaya Darpana. And also Manmohan Ghosh related to the linguistic studies and also the description and all the meters, that is Chandas and Samskrita pattern, what it is there in Abhinaya Darpana. He very safely, he says it can be between 1000 and 1300. And also with all this cultural connectivity, continuously I'm in the search of journey of identifying the date of Abhinaya Darpana. Every class for my students I will be discussing. And I have a question in number of times the scholars related to this, especially the Navarasa and Navagraha hastas and also Mangalya hasta. Mangalya Dharana, it is as per to our this thing, it is a later addition where it was only Padigrahana was there. So he gives all these details connected to that. So because of that, this understanding is there. Of course, as you have mentioned, n number of Nandikeshwaras are there. Prior to, even in Natya Shastra and prior to Natya Shastra also, we have names of Nandikeshwara, Nandisha and Nandi. This name is there, sir. But related to Abhinaya Darpana, I have this question. I will look into that. Thank you very much for your observation.
Sorry, just to connect the classical approach about the text, or making very grammatically or Vyakarana Baddha anta ಏನು ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ, are there any chances of adopting the parallel history, parallel references to reach out this classical version? Thank you.
That is what I am saying. That is my observation, where socio-cultural connectivity and the practicality, what was there in confluence time of the Desi Paddhati, what we had, the Nritya dance which developed. Initially it was Natya tradition where a number of varieties were there in Natya. The Nritya, individualistic dance, developed only in confluence time around 9th century and 10th century. Then the socio-cultural impact might have been a very strong influence for Abhinaya Darpana. That is what even I feel, sir. Thank you very much.
So ma'am, your inputs are really wonderful.
Thank you.
Especially highlighting Abhinaya Darpan, because I think it is very essential, as there is a lot to explore. Yeah. And even as sir also is asking, so I think we have to also check with all other our senior scholars and all other fellows whether we can check the etymology also. Because even when we speak about, say, Nandi Chollu, it's a different meaning. Nandi Shollu is a different, Nandi Kollu. So there are a lot of varieties that come in. Even if we look into, say, the Karnataka Jatra, we see the Nandi staff before the processions. Any Utsavas being happening, we see that before the processions also we have the staff. But though the word is Nandi, the meaning, the usage, the experience, what comes with it becomes different. So yes, connecting the dots will be definitely helpful to all of us.
Thank you. Even in Bharata Kosha, Ramakrishna Kavi mentions the same thing. When he explains about Nandikeswara or the concept, he says it is n number of times we can see the names in different genre and different context. We have to be very careful while identifying who is who and from where, in how to connect him for the concept. Like Nandi Kolu, yes, it has its own significance, and different Nandi, Nandisha, Nandikeswara, Nandikeswara. So many names are there, and of course we are going to watch a number of presentations related to Nandi and his iconographical description also, where R.H. Kulkarni sir may giving the wide range of Nandi concepts, what is there in our culture. Thank you very much.
Ma'am, regarding Navagrahas, during the Gupta period, there's definitely the codification of 7 grahas were there. Varahamihira discusses whether Rahu can be considered a graha or not. Then later by 6th-7th century, Orissa Parshurameshwara temple has Ashtagrahas, 8. They exclude Ketu. And I think by 8th century, the 9 grahas codification is complete.
Thank you. Yes, that is what I mean to say. That is 900 onwards, that is some 750 onwards or 8th century, then we can see the concept of grahas, ashtagrahas or navagrahas, but not before that, because Appar Rao says it is somewhere between 4th to 5th century, the Abhinaya Darpana, that is what he says. But because of that, my question developed, and also when we look into the architectural details of the iconography also, and also the ceiling and the architecture, the Navagraha and also the Ashtadikpalaka concept developed, as you said, only after 8th century, when structural temples developed in a very systematic way. That is my point also. Thank you very much.
Ma'am, but some parts of the text can be older and some can be also 8th century and like
yeah, that
right?
is the ambiguity, because in number of manuscripts have been identified. Because of the time constraints, I have not told about that. We have enlisted a number of manuscripts which has been collected, and abridged versions are there, and also Grantantara Pathar are all been added. So Manmohan Ghosh explains there, Navagraha Hastas, what has been added, it has been added, probably the version of 9th century onwards, which we are prevalent and we are following, that has this collection. So that is the point. Very detailed, in a detailed way, Dr. Manmohan Ghosh, aka Ananda Kumaraswamy and Appar Rao discuss about that. My main presentation or my questions were based on the introduction, what I have read from them only. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to add, in the Shaiva Agama tradition, there is the worship of the grahas around Surya. And the daily Nitya Puja, there is before starting the worship of Shiva, there is worship of Surya should be done. And at the end, the 8 grahas are worshipped. But we find it mentioned in the early Shaiva Agamas, such as the Kamika Agama and Ajita Agama. But of course, some Agamas do not mention the Surya Puja. But since you say that by 9th, 8th, 9th century, this Navagraha was added in the worship tradition, in the textual tradition, they were already there, still earlier.
Yes, sir.
Still earlier.
Tradition developed,
maybe in the art or the external manifest, there you may find it maybe later, the 8th, 9th. But the textual tradition, they are already there.
yes, sir.
I just want to add that.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir, it is there in the Agama tradition, and very elaborately they give the details about the Dikpalakas and their rituals. Agama tradition is very old, and also we can see from 7th century onwards the Agama tradition adopted in temple architecture. Thank you, sir.